The stars were silent that night, cold, endless, and watching. Across the dark, a fleet of ships moved slowly toward the blue planet called Araxia 9. It was not a friendly world. The surface shifted like a living thing, storms formed from dust and lightning, and nothing that landed ever came back whole. Yet today, dozens of ships approached. They came for one reason: the galactic survival trials. Every 10 years, the Council of Worlds chose a deadly planet. Every species sent their best warriors, scientists, or explorers. The goal was simple: survive for 7 days, reach the beacon, and send the signal. The prize was glory, knowledge, and respect across the stars. And among the shining ships of alien design, there was one small, rough-looking craft. It was human. Inside sat Captain Elias Rourke, commander of the Terran Expeditionary Corps. He was not young but not old, a man carved by war with calm eyes that carried stories no one dared to ask about. His uniform was simple, his tools even simpler. On the seat beside him lay only one item: a steel knife, old and worn, its handle wrapped in leather. The screen in front of him flickered with the image of the alien announcer. "Contestants," the voice said, smooth and proud. "You have been chosen from the finest of your kind. The planet below awaits you. Prepare your tools and begin the descent." In ships around him, aliens checked their equipment: scanners, plasma rifles, drones, auto-cooks, environmental shields. They packed 47 different survival tools, each one designed to handle danger, weather, and unknown species. Rourke watched quietly. His co-pilot, a young officer named Mira, frowned. "Sir, are you sure about this? Just a knife?" she asked softly. Rourke didn't answer right away. He looked at the stars, endless and cold. Then back at her. "Tools can fail," he said. "But the hand that holds them, that's what matters." She didn't argue. Humans had a strange reputation in the galaxy. They were called adapters, survivors, chaos walkers. Every species had their technology, their logic, their rules. Humans, they had something harder to explain: instinct. As their ship entered the planet's atmosphere, thunder roared outside. The hull shook, flames licked the sides, and the storm below opened like a hungry mouth. Most ships used auto-landing systems. Rourke flew manually. "Brace for impact," he said, gripping the controls. The ship spun through red clouds, then broke through into darkness. Lightning flashed across mountains taller than clouds. The ground below was a mix of forests, rivers, and shadows that moved even when the wind was still. They crashed through the trees and hit the ground hard. The hull screamed, sparks flew, and then there was silence. Smoke rose from the wreckage. Rourke coughed, unbuckled his seatbelt, and checked on Mira. She was alive, shaken but breathing. He looked outside. The sky glowed green with strange lights. Something howled in the distance, not machine, not animal, but something in between. He stepped out first. The air burned his throat. The soil moved under his boots like it was breathing. He took the knife from his belt and pressed it into the ground. It hissed. "Corrosive trace," he said quietly. "Don't stay still for too long." Around the landing zones, other ships were touching down, some smoothly, some crashing like meteors. Alien teams emerged, shouting orders, setting up drones and shields. Bright domes of energy lit up the forest. Mechanical voices echoed as sensors scanned the air. The humans, however, had none of that. Their gear was light: rope, basic rations, and their knives. Other species watched from a distance, whispering. "They brought nothing," said one insectoid being with 4 eyes. "They won't last an hour," another replied. Rourke heard the laughter echoing through the comms. He smiled faintly, not angry, not proud, just calm. "Let them laugh," he murmured. He gathered his team of 6 humans: Mira, 2 engineers, a biologist, and 2 scouts. Each carried the same simple weapon: a knife forged from earth steel. "Remember," Rourke said, his voice steady, "we're not here to outgun them, we're here to outlast them. In orbit, thousands of alien viewers watched the live broadcast. Commentators spoke in excitement. Humans have chosen only a knife? That can't be serious. Are they mocking the trials? Rourke looked up at the blinking camera drone hovering nearby. He could feel the weight of the galaxy's laughter. He didn't care. "Record this," he said quietly, staring straight into the lens. "Humans don't survive because of tools. We survive because we adapt." The camera zoomed in as he walked into the wild forest. The ground pulsed. Trees twisted like muscles. Something screamed in the distance, long and sharp. Mira looked at the others. "Should we follow?" Rourke turned his head slightly. "Stay close. If something moves, don't run. Running makes you prey." The storm grew darker. Lightning burned across the sky in white webs. In the glow, shapes moved. Large, quick, too fast to count. The aliens in their camps raised shields. Rourke simply lifted his knife. "Let's begin," he said. The cue. Wind carried strange whispers, the kind that made the hair rise on the back of your neck. And as the camera drone followed them deeper into the jungle, the audience across the stars went silent. No one was laughing anymore, because even without machines, without weapons, without 47 tools, the humans looked ready. And somewhere in the dark, the planet looked back. The jungle of Araxia 9 was alive, not with life but with hunger. Every leaf dripped poison. Every sound carried a warning. Even the silence seemed to wait for something to die. Captain Elias Rourke led his small human team through the mist, his knife gleaming in the dim green light. Behind him walked Mira, still shaken from the crash. The others followed, 2 scouts, a biologist, and 2 engineers, all quiet, all alert. Their boots sank into the moving soil, which pulsed like the skin of some sleeping beast. "This planet," Mira whispered. "It feels wrong." Rourke didn't answer. He didn't need to. He could feel it too, like the air itself was watching them. In the distance, alien camps lit up the darkness. Bright domes shimmered, full of drones scanning for threats. Alien voices echoed as they built fortresses out of metal and light. The other species trusted their tools. The humans trusted each other. "Captain," said Juno the biologist, staring at the ground. "The plants here, they move when we step. Look." Rourke crouched. The vines shifted slowly, curling away from his shadow. He cut one with his knife. Black liquid oozed out and hissed like acid. "It reacts to body heat," Juno said. "Alive. Everything here is alive." Rourke wiped the blade clean on his sleeve. "Then we stay cold," he said. "No fire, no lights." Night fell fast. The twin moons rose, one red, one white, and the forest began to sing. It wasn't a pretty song. It was the low rumble of beasts, the clicking of unseen jaws, and the whisper of something huge moving through the trees. In the alien camps, lights burned bright. The insectoid Zetherans surrounded themselves with plasma shields. The mechanical Orvians released drones to patrol. The Dravik, a reptilian species, fired energy bolts into the dark just to feel safe. Every beep, every hum, every pulse of light drew attention. The jungle listened. Rourke's team hid in silence, crouched under roots twisted like bones. No fire, no machines, only shadows. They shared rations, dried food, barely enough, and whispered. "Captain," one scout murmured. "They have drones, shields, scanners, Q, and we have knives." Rourke looked up at the red moon and smiled faintly. "They have tools," he said. "We have instincts. Let's see which lasts longer." Hours passed. Then a movement. A shape emerged through the mist. It was tall, with limbs like cables and eyes that burned blue. An Orvian drone searching. It hovered, scanning, humming softly. Mira held her breath. Rourke's eyes narrowed. The drone turned, and in one smooth motion, he moved. The knife flashed once. The machine fell. Silent. The team stared. Rourke pressed his ear to the ground. The earth trembled. "Move," he whispered. "Now." They ran through the black vines, their steps light and quiet. Behind them, the jungle exploded. Trees split apart as something vast rose from the ground. A beast of stone and bone with a mouth like a cave. It roared, shaking the sky. From far away, the alien camps opened fire. Plasma bolts burned through the mist. The creature turned toward the light, and the aliens screamed. From their hiding place, the humans watched the chaos. Mira's eyes widened. "It's hunting the noise." Rourke nodded slowly. Noise. Heat. Light. The more tools they use, the faster they die. Through the darkness, the team moved deeper, following animal trails and strange glowing roots. The air smelled like iron and smoke. Sometimes they heard cries, alien voices cut short, machines screaming as they melted. The trials had only begun, and already half the species were losing. "Captain," Juno said quietly, pointing at the ground. Rourke knelt. There in the mud were footprints, huge, round, and fresh. He touched the edge. It was warm. "Whatever made that," he said, "isn't sleeping." They reached a cliff that overlooked a river of mist. The water below glowed faintly green. Across the valley, they could see alien lights still flashing, a sign of fear, not control. Mira looked up at Rourke. "What do we do now?" He studied the horizon. "Adapt," he said simply. "That's how we win." Later that night, Rourke sat alone, sharpening his knife against a stone. The sound was steady, calm. Mira approached. "You don't seem afraid," she said. He smiled without looking at her. "I've seen worse." "Worse than this?" she asked, glancing at the glowing forest. "Worse," he said. "This planet just wants to eat us." "The universe. It wants to test us." She sat beside him in silence. After a while, she said, "Do you think we can really survive this?" Rourke looked up at the stars through the smoke. "I don't think," he said. "I know." Far above in orbit, millions of viewers watched the human feed. Commentators whispered, "The others have lost half their tools already. The fog is shutting down electronics. But the humans? They're still moving." "What are they doing down there?" The camera drone, still hovering from earlier, caught a final image before the signal flickered. Rourke standing at the edge of the jungle, knife in hand, eyes calm. Lightning flashed behind him, painting the sky blood red. He looked straight into the lens, into the galaxy, and said quietly, "Survival isn't about what you carry. It's about what you become." Then the feed went black. And across the stars, for the first time, the galaxy stopped laughing. The second night on Araxia 9 was worse than the first. The air grew heavier, like it wanted to crush every breath. The jungle no longer whispered, it growled. Even the stars above looked dim, as if they feared what was happening below. Captain Elias Rourke and his small human team moved through the shadows. They carried no lights, no scanners, no drones. Only knives, rope, and instinct. Around them, the alien camps glowed bright in the distance. Blue domes of energy pulsed in the dark, shining like tiny suns. The aliens believed the light would protect them. They didn't understand yet that on Araxia 9, light meant death. Rourke crouched near a fallen tree, watching. Through the scope of his old-fashioned binoculars, the only non-electronic tool they had, he could see one of the alien camps. The Zetharans, insectoid beings with glittering eyes, were repairing their plasma fence. They moved fast, efficient, and loud. Too loud. A low rumble rolled through the forest. The leaves trembled. Something massive was coming. "Here we go," Rourke murmured. His team froze. Through the mist, the ground split apart. A creature like molten stone rose from below. 6 legs, claws that shimmered red, eyes burning with fire. The Zetharans screamed and opened fire. Energy bolts lit up the forest like lightning. But for every blast they fired, the beast grew angrier. The ground shook. The fence shattered. The aliens tried to run, but it was too late. The creature crushed their camp and vanished back into the dark. Silence followed. Only smoke and broken metal remained. The humans didn't move for a long time. Finally, Mira whispered. They had shields, blasters, scanners, and still died in seconds. Rourke nodded slowly. They trusted tools, he said. Tools break. Instinct doesn't. He stood scanning the dark horizon. Let's move. We find water before sunrise. The team marched quietly through the vines. Every step made the ground breathe. Rourke led them by sound, not machines, not maps, but the rhythm of the jungle. He listened to wind, to movement, to the pulse of life itself. At last they found a small waterfall glowing faintly green under the moons. The water was cold but clean. While the others refilled canteens, Mira crouched beside Rourke. "Sir," she said, "why don't we fight like them? We could have brought rifles, generators." He cut her off softly. "Because guns make noise, and noise gets you killed. The others still think this is a war. It's not. It's a conversation between us and this planet." He touched the ground with his hand. "We listen. It decides if we live." By morning, the fog thickened until they could barely see 10 steps ahead. Somewhere out there, alien distress calls echoed, fading one by one. Araxia 9 was eating the unprepared. The humans kept moving uphill. Soon they reached a cliff where they could see what was left of the Orvian camp. Robots scattered like toys, smoke rising. One machine was still alive, dragging itself by a broken arm. Its eye flickered weakly. "Help." "Protocol," it said in a robotic voice. Rourke knelt beside it. "What happened?" "Atmospheric interference. Shutting down systems. Human units. Illogical. Success." Then the light in its eye went dark. Mira stared. "It said we're succeeding." Rourke didn't smile. "No," he said quietly. "It said we're not supposed to." Later they made a camp under a rock shelf hidden from the sky. They built no fire, only wrapped themselves in thermal cloths. Rourke sat with his knife carving symbols into a piece of wood. Mira watched. "What are you doing?" "Keeping track," he said. "Of days, of choices, of lessons." He pointed to the carvings. "First mark, the Zetherans. Too loud. Second mark, the Orvians. Too proud. If we make a mistake, this planet will add our mark next." Juno, the biologist, leaned forward. "So what makes us different?" Rourke glanced up. "We learn, fast. At dawn, the jungle changed again. The mist turned orange. The trees started to move, not swaying but walking. Huge roots tore through the soil. Birds screamed and vanished. Even the air buzzed like electricity. "Captain," Mira said, "we're surrounded." "I know," Rourke said calmly. The team drew their knives, tiny, useless-looking things against living trees taller than towers. But Rourke didn't swing. He stepped forward, slowly, eyes on the largest tree. The roots curled near his boots, sniffing, tasting. He held out his knife and blade down harmless. The ground trembled, then went still. The roots pulled back. Everyone exhaled at once. Mira's voice shook. "What did you do?" "Respect," Rourke said simply. "Even a monster understands it." From orbit, the galaxy watched the humans in confusion. Commentators whispered over static feeds. "The human team still has no casualties. How? Their tools are primitive. They're using nothing." The audience expected fear, weakness, panic, but what they saw instead was control, calm, focus, survival through simplicity. That night, as the moons rose again, Rourke stood alone at the cliff's edge. The knife in his hand caught the moonlight. He looked out over the glowing jungle and spoke softly to himself. "They brought 47 tools," he said. "We brought one, and the only one we need." Behind him, the team slept, breathing slow, steady, alive. Above them, the stars flickered like watching eyes. Somewhere deep in the jungle, another roar echoed. The game wasn't over, but the humans were no longer prey. They were learning the planet's language, and soon they would speak it better than anyone ever had. By the 4th day, Araxia 9 had changed. The jungle no longer roared. It listened. The storms above had faded into a heavy silence, and the mist turned thick as milk. Something unseen was watching the survivors. Not the beasts, not the trees, but something else. Captain Elias Rourke felt it first. It was not fear. It was pattern. The planet was learning them. His team marched through waist-high fog, the air cold and wet like breath. Every sound echoed twice, once real, once false. Sometimes footsteps came from behind, even when nobody was there. "Captain," whispered Mira, her voice trembling. "We're being followed." Rourke didn't turn. "I know," he said quietly, "but it's not footsteps we're hearing. It's our own." They moved slower. The fog made shapes. human shapes and walking beside them, fading when they blinked. Echoes of laughter, whispers of voices they knew. One of the scouts, Nolan, stopped suddenly. "I just heard my brother," he said. "He's calling my name." Rourke grabbed his shoulder. "Your brother's on Earth, keep moving." But the voice came again, closer this time. Nolan turned toward the mist and vanished. Mira gasped, "Nolan!" The others rushed forward, but Rourke held up his hand. "Stop, look." A few meters ahead, Nolan's shape appeared, standing still, facing away. Rourke squinted. Something was wrong. The shadow didn't breathe, the shape turned. Its face was blank, smooth skin where eyes and mouth should be. It tilted its head like a curious animal. Then it opened its mouth. Nolan's scream came out of it. The humans froze. The sound was perfect, Nolan's exact voice. Then the creature charged. Rourke moved first. The knife flashed, and one clean strike. The thing fell, melting into mist. The scream faded with it. Juno, the biologist, whispered, "It copied him." "The planet's mimicking us," Rourke nodded grimly. "Now it's testing who we are." They buried Nolan's gear and kept moving. Each hour the jungle shifted color, green to gray to red. The ground was hot beneath their boots. Their food was almost gone. In the distance, explosions flashed. Alien camps were still fighting, still using weapons. But something strange was happening. Their lasers bent midair, turning back toward them. Their machines began attacking their own makers. "Their tools are turning against them," Mira said softly. Rourke's jaw tightened. "Because the planet learned their signals. Every tool leaves a pattern, and this world copies patterns." He touched his knife. Steel and instinct, and nothing for it to mimic. By evening, they reached a valley of bones. Skeletons of beasts, ships, and strange metal filled the pit below. Every failed trial was buried here, 10 years of loss. A broken alien beacon blinked faintly under layers of dust. Mira crouched beside it. "It's still active. Maybe we can send a signal." Rourke studied it for a long time, then shook his head. "No, that's bait. Anything that sends a signal here dies. That's how it finds you." "How what finds you?" she asked. He looked up at the sky. The planet itself. Lightning flashed, not from clouds, but from the ground. The fog thickened again. Figures began to form. Not monsters this time, but humans. Mira gasped. "They're us. Copies. Perfect copies. Same faces, same knives, same gear." Each pair of human eyes looked back at its original. One of the doppelgangers spoke, Rourke's voice calm and cold. "You are not needed. The planet already knows how to survive." The real Rourke stepped forward, knife in hand. "Then you don't know how to fight," he said. The valley erupted in chaos. Blades clashed, fists struck, shadows melted and reformed. Every move Rourke made, his copy mirrored. Same strike, same breath, same stance. It was like fighting a reflection. He dropped low, rolled through the dust, and stabbed his own shadow through the chest. It bled light instead of blood, bright, burning light that hissed and vanished. All the other copies screamed and dissolved into mist. When it was over, only silence remained. Juno fell to her knees, gasping. "It tried to replace us." Mira wiped sweat from her face. "It's learning faster." Rourke looked around, eyes sharp. "No, it's not learning faster. It's failing slower. That means it can be beaten." He looked at the knife and the only tool that hadn't betrayed them. "Everything alive on this planet adapts by copying. We adapt by understanding. That's our edge." Night came again, red and angry. They found shelter inside an old alien wreck half buried in the mud. The walls were cracked but stable. For the first time in days, they rested. Outside, the fog pulsed faintly, alive, listening, remembering. It whispered the names of the fallen, repeating them over and over. Inside, Rourke stayed awake, knife in hand. He knew now this planet wasn't just testing survival. It was testing identity. How much of yourself could you lose before you stopped being human? He looked out into the dark and said softly, "You can copy our shapes. You can steal our voices, but you'll never understand why we fight." The fog didn't answer. It just watched, waiting for the next move. And as the humans drifted into uneasy sleep far above them, the alien judges watched in awe. For the first time in history, Araxia 9 was changing its rules, adapting to humans, and that terrified everyone watching. The 5th day began with screams. Not human screams, the alien ones. From the far side of the valley, Fire rose into the red morning sky. The jungle shook as something huge moved through it, breaking trees like sticks. A shadow passed over the ground, long and wide as a ship. Captain Elias Rourke stood at the edge of the broken alien wreck and watched the flames. The sound came again, a roar that wasn't animal, wasn't machine, but something in between. It echoed for miles. Mira came running up the slope. "Captain, what was that?" Rourke didn't answer. He was already listening, not just with ears, but with instinct. The sound had rhythm, hunger, direction. "It's hunting," he said quietly. "And it's coming this way." The team began to pack fast. They had no shields, no rifles, no scanners. Only knives, rope, and what they had learned. The ground shook again. Birds scattered. The trees ahead bent and cracked. Rourke raised a hand. Hide spread out. No light, no noise. They melted into the shadows, becoming part of the jungle. Moments later, the beast appeared. It was enormous. Skin of stone, veins glowing with fire, 6 eyes like molten gold. It sniffed the air, dragging claws across the dirt. Its mouth opened, rows of teeth turning slowly like gears. Mira hid behind a fallen log, breathing through her sleeve. The creature's breath steamed in the air, smelling of ash and blood. It sniffed closer. She gripped her knife, hands shaking. Then a soft whistle. Rourke's signal. The beast turned its head. Too late. A trap snapped from above. A net of vines woven by hand dropped over its face. It roared, clawing at the vines. Rourke moved like a shadow, sliding down the slope. He leapt onto its back and drove his knife into the glowing gap between plates of stone. The beast thrashed, throwing sparks. The knife cut deep, but not enough. Rourke held on with one hand, stabbing again and again. The creature slammed him into a tree. He hit the ground hard, rolled, and came up bleeding but alive. "Mira!" he shouted. "Now!" Mira ran forward, grabbed a burning branch, and threw it into the creature's open mouth. It screamed, light bursting from inside its body. The jungle flashed white, then silence. The beast fell, shaking the earth one last time before going still. Smoke rose from the cracks in its skin. The team stood around it, panting. Juno whispered, "What was that?" Rourke wiped the blood from his face. "Something the planet made to hunt machines," he said. But when the machines died, it started hunting sound. And movement. Mira stared at him. "And us." He nodded. "Now we're the machines." They worked quickly, using the beast-cooled bones to make spears and tools. The heat from its body kept the cold fog away. For the first time, they felt warm. Rourke looked at the glowing cracks in the creature's hide. "It's full of energy," he said. "Like a living reactor." Juno crouched beside him. "If we can drain it, maybe we can recharge our distress beacon." Rourke shook his head. "No signals, not here. This planet listens. Then why keep fighting?" Mira asked softly. He looked at her, steady, calm. "Because surviving is fighting, and humans are very hard to silence." As night fell, they made camp under the skeleton of the dead creature. The red glow from its remains lit their faces like firelight. They cooked strips of meat over a small flame, the first hot meal in days. It tasted strange, but it was food. Far away, another roar echoed, deeper this time. "There was more than one," Mira whispered. "If there are more of them, we can't stay." Rourke nodded. "We don't run. We move forward." "Toward what?" He pointed at the mountains on the horizon. "That's where the beacon is." "The signal?" "The end of the trials." Juno looked up at the stars. "If we make it," she said, "we'll be legends." Rourke smiled faintly. "If we make it, we'll be human." The next morning, fog rolled down the mountains like waves. The jungle was quiet, too quiet. Even the insects were gone. The air felt heavy, like holding your breath too long. Rourke's instincts screamed. "Eyes up," he said. The team froze. Something moved above them. Dozens of shapes crawling through the canopy. Not beasts, not copies. Machines, alien drones Umbana from fallen camps, now reanimated, glowing with the same light as the creature's veins. The planet had taken their metal and made them its own. The machines dropped from the trees, moving like animals. Sharp limbs, burning eyes. The humans ran. Rourke grabbed Mira's arm. "To the river, move." They sprinted through the fog, dodging roots and claws. One drone lunged. Rourke slashed its leg, sparks flying. Another grabbed Juno's pack, dragging her backward. Rourke turned, kicked it down, and stabbed through its head. The knife sizzled, glowing white-hot. The machine died in silence. They reached the river and jumped. Cold water swallowed them whole. When they surfaced downstream, the jungle behind them burned. Blue fire eating through the trees. Mira coughed, gasping. "We can't fight all that." Rourke looked at her, water dripping from his hair. "We don't have to," he said. "We just have to survive longer than everything else." That night, under a torn sky and rising smoke, the galaxy watched the feed in stunned silence. The alien commentators spoke softly. "The humans are still alive." "How?" "With nothing but knives." On Araxia 9, Captain Elias Rourke stared into the darkness, holding the same blade that had cut through stone, shadow, and machine. The planet had unleashed its monsters, but the humans had unleashed something older. Instinct sharpened into will, and the hunt was far from over. By the 6th day, Araxia 9 was silent again. Too silent. No beasts, no drones. No voices, only the wind, and slow, heavy, almost thoughtful. It was as if the planet itself was holding its breath. Captain Elias Rourke stood on the riverbank staring at the mountains ahead. That was where the final beacon waited, the goal of the galactic survival trials. Whoever reached it first would be declared the champion, but no one had ever reached it alive. Behind him, the human team looked worn and thin. Their clothes were torn, faces marked with dirt and cuts. But their eyes still burned with focus. 6 had started. Now only 4 remained. Mira sat by the water, washing blood from her arm. Her voice was quiet. "Do you think anyone else is still alive?" Rourke didn't answer. He didn't have to. The silence around them was the answer. They began to climb as dawn broke. The path twisted through stone and fog. Each step grew colder. The air itself felt strange, sharp, electric. Juno, the biologist, stopped suddenly. "Captain," she said. "The rocks, they're pulsing." He looked down. The stone under his boots glowed faintly red, as if blood was moving through it. He touched it, and the ground pulsed again like a heartbeat. "This mountain's alive," he said softly. The mountain shuddered. Then came the voice, not from the sky, not from below, from everywhere at once. "You have learned. You have adapted. But now you face the last trial." The humans froze. The air vibrated with the sound, and deep, endless, ancient. Mira whispered, "It's the planet." Rourke nodded. "And it's talking," the voice continued. "The others brought tools to control life. You brought nothing. Yet still you live. Explain." Rourke looked up toward the glowing peaks. He raised his voice. "Because we don't control life. We respect it. We fight when we must, and we learn when we can." The wind howled. Lightning crawled across the cliffs. "Then show me," the voice said. The mountain cracked open. The ground split, revealing a staircase of light leading deep inside. Without speaking, Rourke started down. The others followed, blades ready, hearts pounding. Inside was a vast chamber, glowing veins running through the walls, shadows twisting like smoke. At its center stood a structure, the beacon, tall and silver, humming with power. It looked simple. Too simple. That was the danger. "Captain," Juno said, "it's active. Maybe we just need to—" "Don't touch it," Rourke said. The floor beneath them shifted. Something rose from the ground at a figure. It was tall, armored, and carried a blade made of pure light. Its face was human. Mira stepped back. "It's you," the figure's eyes glowed. "I am the memory of your kind," it said. "The echo of those who came before." Rourke tightened his grip on his knife. "Then you already know how this ends." The being moved fast, faster than anything they'd faced. Its blade cut through the air like thunder. Rourke blocked with his knife. Sparks exploded. The team scattered, diving behind the glowing rocks. Mira threw a shard of metal. It passed through the being like smoke. Juno fired a flare gun, useless. Only Rourke stayed close, fighting strike for strike. Each movement was mirrored perfectly. The being fought like him, thought like him. Every attack he made it anticipated. "You cannot defeat yourself," it said. Rourke smiled, blood running from his lip. "Maybe not. But I can surprise me." He feinted left, dropped low, and stabbed upward. Not at the body, but at the light blade itself. The knife hit the core. The glow shattered like glass. The being stumbled, its eyes dimming. "You learned to adapt," it whispered. Rourke caught it as it fell. "I learned to survive," he said softly. The chamber trembled. The walls began to move, pulsing faster. A voice thundered again. "You have passed. But your kind should not have." The beacon's light flared, blinding. A wind of fire swept through the chamber, lifting them off their feet. Rourke grabbed Mira's hand and shouted, "Hold on!" The light swallowed everything. Then silence. When Rourke opened his eyes, they were standing at the mountain's peak. The sky was clear. The fog was gone. The beacon stood beside them, still glowing, its light reaching into space. "Transmission active," said Juno weakly. "We did it." "The signal's out." Rourke looked around. No beasts, no copies. No machines. Just wind, stars, and peace. Mira knelt, exhausted. "Is it over?" He shook his head slowly. "For us, maybe. For the others watching, it's just beginning." Far above, the Galactic Council watched the broadcast in silence. The human team had done what no species ever had. No tools, no shields, just will. An alien announcer whispered, "How did they win?" Another replied, "They didn't win. They endured." Rourke stood alone at the beacon, the knife in his hand. He looked at the reflection in the polished metal. A man covered in scars, eyes steady, alive. He raised the knife in salute to the sky. "This wasn't about surviving the planet," he said quietly. "It was about surviving ourselves." The beacon pulsed brighter, as if the planet itself had heard. A voice, softer now, drifted through the wind. "You understand?" The others never did. Rourke smiled faintly. "Then maybe it's time you stop testing us." The voice faded. Only the sound of the wind remained. Below the mountain, the jungle began to heal. The fog thinned. The rivers cleared. For the first time, Araxia 9 was quiet. Truly quiet. The humans built a small fire near the beacon and sat together. They didn't celebrate. They didn't need to. They had proven the truth every alien had doubted. Humanity didn't need 47 tools. It only needed one, the will to keep going when everything else stopped. And as the stars turned above, the universe finally understood what human really meant. The sixth sunrise came painted in red. Not the red of dawn, but the red of warning. The clouds above Araxia 9 glowed like open wounds, and the air itself trembled. The planet wasn't calm anymore, it was waiting. Captain Elias Rourke stood at the edge of a cliff, his knife resting against his leg. The mountains ahead stretched like walls of stone and fire. Somewhere beyond them, hidden in storm and ash, stood the final beacon, the end of the trials. Reach it and they would live. Fail, and they would become another memory in the planet's soil. Mira climbed up beside him, sweat streaking through the dirt on her face. 3 days, no rest, no food, she said softly. And still climbing. Rourke nodded, eyes fixed on the peaks. The end is always uphill. The climb began before dawn. The fog around them was thick, pulsing with strange colors. Every echo seemed wrong, delayed, twisted. The planet was whispering again. Below, the jungle burned. Above, thunder cracked through the sky like breaking bones. The air stank of metal and ozone. As they climbed, the ground started to hum. Juno, the biologist, paused and pressed her hand against the rock. "It's alive," she whispered. Rourke said nothing. He already knew. Everything here was alive. The soil, the air, even the stone beneath their boots. By midday, they reached a ledge that overlooked the valley. Mira looked down and gasped. The alien camps, every last one, were gone. No lights, no movement, no survivors, just smoke curling up through the mist like dying breath. "We're the last team," she said quietly. Rourke's jaw tightened. "Then we finish what we started." They moved on. Hours passed. The climb grew steeper, the wind colder. Their hands bled from sharp rock. Their legs shook. Still, they climbed. The fog thinned as they reached a narrow ridge. Ahead stood a massive stone arch glowing faintly blue. It hummed, low and deep like a heartbeat. Juno stopped. "Captain, that's not natural." Rourke touched the arch carefully. Energy rippled through his arm. Warm, almost gentle. A voice followed, deep and calm. "Welcome, human. You have reached the final trial." The team froze. The voice came from everywhere. From the air, the stone, the mountain itself. "You have walked through death in silence. You have seen life bend and twist. But tell me, why should you live?" Mira swallowed. "What do we say?" Rourke looked at the mountain, at the storm, at the endless world that wanted them gone. He took a slow breath. "Because we never stop trying," he said. "That's our way. We learn, we adapt. We keep moving." The air pulsed. Lightning split the sky. "Then prove it." The mountain cracked open. A staircase of fire rose from the stone, leading into darkness. Without a word, Rourke stepped forward. Inside, the air shimmered. They entered a vast cavern, glowing with shifting light. At its center stood the beacon, tall, silver, perfect, surrounded by floating shards of metal. It hummed with a sound like a heartbeat. Mira took a step toward it, but Rourke stopped her. Wait. The shards moved, swirling together like a storm. They formed a shape. A figure. It was human, or something pretending to be. Tall, pale eyes burning blue. Its voice was calm. I am the guardian of the beacon. I am what remains of the first species that failed. It drew a blade of light from its arm. To reach the beacon, you must survive me. Rourke stepped forward. His team started to protest, but he raised a hand. This one's mine. The guardian struck first. Faster than thought. The light blade cut through the air, grazing Rourke's shoulder. He didn't flinch. He lunged low, his knife slashing upward, sparks exploding where steel met energy. The sound echoed like thunder. You fight with a blade of metal, the guardian said. Primitive. Rourke grinned through the blood. It's not the blade. It's the hand behind it. The duel raged. Human against echo, instinct against precision. The guardian's strikes were perfect, mathematical. Rourke's were raw, unpredictable. Finally, he caught the creature's arm, twisted and drove his knife straight into its chest. The light flared, then shattered. The guardian fell to one knee. Impossible, it whispered. You are chaos. No, Rourke said. We're alive. The creature collapsed, fading into mist. The chamber trembled. The beacon's light grew brighter. A voice, the same ancient one, filled the air again. You have done what no species could. You faced yourself and did not break. The mountain began to shift, rocks falling as the whole world seemed to breathe around them. Captain! Mira shouted. It's collapsing. Rourke grabbed her hand. Run! They sprinted up the burning stairs as the cavern caved in behind them. Fire chased their shadows. The roar of the mountain followed them into the open sky. They burst out at the summit. The beacon rose behind them, now a tower of pure light reaching into space. Rourke turned, staring into it. It wasn't just a signal. It was a message. To the galaxy. To everyone watching, Mira fell to her knees, exhausted. Did we win? Rourke didn't answer right away. He looked at the stars, now clear and endless. No, he said softly. We endured. That's better. The wind shifted. The planet's voice returned, gentler this time. You understand now. Survival is not control. It is balance, Rourke smiled faintly. Guess you finally get it. The beacon pulsed once more, sending a beam across the galaxy. In distant worlds, screens flickered with a single image. Humans standing on a dead world, holding nothing but knives and will. And far above, even the judges were silent. Because for the first time, Araxia 9 hadn't defeated its visitors. It had learned from them.